So in this lecture, we are going to talk about the challenges and risks that are involved in IoT. So first point that we are going to talk about is connectivity. So obviously, as we have discussed in the previous lecture regarding evolution also, as more and more Internet of Things devices are coming up, the different developers and different manufacturers, they are using different standards, right? So of course each standard has its own pros and cons. We cannot say that one standard is much better than the others and everyone should focus on that particular standard. So it depends on the type of application being implemented. So there are a wide variety of wired as well as wireless standards available for connecting different things in the IoT ecosystem. However, the main challenge here is getting these standards to talk to one another. So as we have already discussed this in previous lectures also, there are so many devices available by different manufacturers. So how do those devices actually communicate or talk with each other? So that is very important, and this is one of the biggest challenges actually in the Internet of Things ecosystem. Then comes the point about power management. So as we have different things, if they are actually connected to your power outlet, then it is fine, they can be powered. But when we talk about portable items, and when we talk about devices that can easily gather data, so they are actually supposed to be portable and they could be carried around easily, so they'll generally run on battery power. So as more and more things within IoT they require battery power, they need to be more portable and self-sustaining, right? So if it is a battery powered device, then of course the battery is going to run out sooner or later, so we have to think about how often the batteries have to be replaced, or if it's a chargeable battery, then how often it needs to be charged, right? So power management, power optimization is very important when it comes to IoT devices. The developers and the manufacturers, they always are trying to reduce the power consumption of their devices so that they can have a longer battery life. So other options here are kind of a energy harvesting technique, maybe add a solar panel or some sort of way so that the devices can charge themselves without needing to get charged very often, or changing the batteries. Or wireless charging nowadays is being used for charge management. So this is also an important challenge. Then comes complexity. So manufacturers are always looking to add different connectivity to devices and equipment that have never been connected before to become a part of the IoT system. So for this part, ease of design and development is very essential to get more things connected. Alright, it's not that a system should become so complex that it will be very costly, it will be very difficult to manufacture, or it will be very difficult to connect with some other thing. That should not happen. Also, another important point is the average consumers who are actually using the devices, the IoT devices, they should be able to set it up without the use of any technical knowledge. So it is not necessary that whoever wants to use IoT device has some sort of technological background, but still that person should be able to buy that IoT device and use it. That is how we are going to promote the smartness in the country or in the world, if every individual is able to use those IoT devices. So this part is also very important, reducing the complexity of different IoT devices. So coming to the point of security, it is always a challenge in data networks, and this is a very important point which every manufacturer or developer has to consider, because in case of IoT we know the things can be connected to different things and it can be connected to internet also. So there are a lot of entry points, there are a lot of ways you can access that device, and once it is connected to internet, we all know that anything that is connected to internet can be hacked into. That is why the vulnerability of the devices increase there. Alright, so it is not only about the data, maybe your credentials, your private data, or whatever data is at stake. So that is not only the risk, but the damage can be much higher. Okay, for instance, someone is using an IoT device for opening a door. It's actually an automatic control, or it can be remotely operated. So if anyone gets access to that app or access to that method of remotely opening the door, then one can do it, right? Or if you see the example here, opening a door remotely by taking a burglar alarm system offline. So the alarm system can be made to go offline, and then the door can be opened remotely by anyone. Alright, so therefore the fight towards better security is never ending, and developers, manufacturers, researchers are always looking into methods to tighten and make the security of IoT devices better. Then coming to data handling is very important because with so many devices you have a lot of data that gets accumulated. You have massive deployment of endpoints, and that results in a higher node density, which obviously requires a demand for highest storage capacity. So large quantity of data that is generated requires some accessible storage. Suppose you are using some sensors to monitor the data and store the data every minute or every hour. So you can see a lot of data is being generated, and it is not just being thrown away. It is actually being stored, it is actually being analyzed. So many of the IoT devices do that, right? So creating accessible storage is very important. So we have to find ways so that the data should be able to be stored in a very small form, in a very optimal form, so that it does not require a huge space storage, right? Again, to the storage problem, we also have network latency. Suppose we have to send some information that has been acquired by an IoT sensor or device to a server wherever it is being stored. So yes, network latency will also introduce a challenge there. If the bandwidth of the network is low, or if it is not able to upload the data timely, so this is also going to create problems. All right. So these are some of the challenges that are there nowadays in IoT, and that these challenges are actually restricting the IoT to evolve and be a part of everyone's life.